Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to Inner Conquest, the world's greatest modern metaphysics channel. I'm your host, Jacob Edens, and today we are going to be discussing what it means to supplant your reality. So, very cool stuff. When you think about law of assumption, lexicons, right? The way that you describe interacting with reality through scripture as interpreted as states of consciousness within which our awareness and or attention dwells. You want to understand the story from the Old Testament that is Isaac, Jacob, and Esau. Privy to the name Jacob. It's a great name, not gonna lie, okay? So when Goddard talks about supplanting reality, these names are not meant to be historical people. They're meant to be representations of the different states of consciousness within which you dwell, right? So when you have reality, there are 2 points of focus that you can have at any point in time. You can have what you would call fourth dimensional focus, which is the realm of your thoughts, your emotions, and or your inner space, right? So this channel is called Inner Conquest because the better that you can understand, be aware of, manage, and conquer that inner state, you can have it reflect externally, right? So if I think as an architect about a house all day, this house needs to have this, the doors need to be here, boom, I'm visualizing it on the plot of land, I'm seeing it here. That aspect of mind will coordinate the external reality to essentially bring in cooperative components to build the house, right? So I'm focusing on the end, what the house looks like. Builders are coming my way. People with money are coming my way, etc., right? You're magnetizing. That's what you would call law of attraction, or understanding that your mental state is a frequency magnet that brings all of these different components together to construct the reality that you want. Pretty freaking cool, right? So when you have the Old Testament story of Isaac, the theme of Isaac is he's blind. He represents the Father, which is essentially your I amness, right? Your awareness that you're you, your individual self that is focused awareness. Isaac is the father. Jacob and Esau are the sons. Esau is categorized as being hairy. Ooh, hairy guy. Esau represents your third dimensional, tactile, already manifested reality. Solid, right? Solidified consciousness. Jacob is categorized as a smooth-skinned boy, right? It's not that literally he had two sons and one was hairy and one was smooth. This is esoteric knowledge hidden in plain sight. Smooth skin for the reason it represents your fourth dimensional reality. Because if you can go in, right? So I have this glass in my hand. This is a physicalized glass, right? I can also make a mental image of that glass in my mind, and I can also use what's called sensory perception in my mind to feel the same way that this feels, right? The glass is in a certain pattern. I can feel that pattern with my mind. So what that is actually adding realism and tactile viability to the internal self-image of what I am picturing, right? So that's all the sensations that I would feel if it had been externalized the way that I want it to be, right? You have smell, taste, touch, hearing, etc., your five senses, right? You can apply those internally as well. Like if I think about eating a grape, I can actually think of the taste of a grape in my mind, which is crazy to think about, right? I can think of what it feels like to throw a frisbee. I can feel the way my hand would feel it. I could feel the release of it. I could feel what it feels like to ride a bike and press, the little dingy bell, whatever, right? So your mind is a reality in of itself, but it's what you would call a subtle dimension of reality. What subtle means, if you take yogic lexicon, they look at subtle to gross, meaning that if you have something that's subtle, it's like water, right? As the water gets crystallized and hardened into a fixed iceberg, that is a gross dimension. It's the same water. Consciousness is the same substrata, right? But it's in a subtle form or it's in a gross form, meaning that as an architect, I can think of a subtle dimension of a house. Boom, it's built. It's now a gross, fixed reality, right? And the reason that you categorize things from subtle to gross is because if something's subtle, it's malleable, meaning that I can pour water back and forth, right? But if it's an iceberg, I can't pour an Iceberg back and forth. It's more fixed, right? So when you look at primary causation in the world, right, and you have something like a bank account balance that sucks, when you try and go and fix it externally, you're working at a point of less leverage because it's already fixed and gross, meaning that it's already solidified, right? That's why when they say ignore circumstances, because the circumstances have solidified due to the inhabitancy of the state that you've been dwelling in, okay? So when you want to shift reality using a metaphysical way about doing it, you work at the point of the highest leverage, meaning that when you think about creating something, you work in that subtle dimension first, because if it's not established in consciousness, then it's not going to form the way you want it to, no matter how much you do on the outside, right? Like if I keep doing a bunch of stuff outside, but my internal thought processes and states are always of things not working out, then that is being broadcast in the same way that the architect was thinking about the house that was coordinating builders, plots of land, money, all this stuff. I have a consciousness that nothing's working out, so it's coordinating, show them this doesn't work out, make this deal fall through, da-da-da-da-da, right? So that's why it's understanding your point of attraction, your personal atmosphere, your individualized magnetism is so important, because once you understand that, now you can lay base foundations of things being the way you want it to. That's the principle of building your house on rock, not on sand, right? You build your foundation from a vibrational standpoint to be super legit, and then you layer on the specific details, because once you have that attitude, that mood, that feel, that aura of everything going the way you want it to, now you're in flow, right? Everything's working out. You don't have any contradictory energy moving back and forth, creating resistance. So when you have resistance, it's something banging against another thing. So that's like if you have a belief system that's not working, I want to be rich, but you don't think it's possible, boom, you're going to have contradiction and resistance and friction. It's not going to feel very good. So you got to let that go. When you supplant your reality, what you're doing is you are looking at something that you want to change, okay? Say it's bank balance, say it's a relationship, etc., okay? When you want to change that thing, you have two options, right? So think of the story of Isaac, Esau, and Jacob, okay? Isaac is the father, and his principal job is to give the birthright, which equates to validity and acceptance that this is the reality, okay? This is the reality that gets to continue and prosper, okay? So he can only give the birthright to one of his sons. Esau, every single day, consistently brings home hunted animals, meat, all this stuff, okay? So Isaac's attention is on giving Esau the birthright, because Esau is bringing him all of these things all the time. He has clearly brought in more information and more resources than the other son, okay? So what happens in the story is Jacob puts on a sheepskin and one day pretends to be Esau, because the way that Isaac knows to give acceptance in the birthright to his son is by feeling him. And remember, if you go back, Esau is hairy, so he knows, because he's blind, he feels him as real. And he goes, my son, you're the birthright, right? So what happens is Jacob comes with a sheepskin, and Isaac feels it, and he goes, oh, this must be my son Esau. You are given the birthright. And Jacob sneaks off. Esau comes back and goes, Father, I'm ready to receive my birthright. And he goes, wait, but I already gave you the birthright. And he goes, what are you talking about? He goes, it must have been Jacob disguised as you, but he's already gotten the birthright and is now the heir. So what that means is that when reality is giving you all of these different circumstances external to you that are impressing upon you, this is how it is, this is how it is, this is how it is, you always have the ability to recreate those circumstances through going to that fourth dimensional, more subtle reality and seeing the outcome that you want and attaching that tactile, realistic sensory feel in the same way that this cup is here. I can have it in my mind and feel it. But what I do as the father, as Isaac, who is blind, is understand that reality is felt as real. So I can either feel it externally or I can feel it internally, but I can't do both because I pick one or I pick the other. So if something comes that is in the world of effects, external, I go, that's how it is, it's never going to change, da 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 da. That's true. I freeze and allow that reality to prosper. But if this comes to me and I go, that's not really what I want, and I go internally and I see it the way I want to, and I go, this is the real reality, and I feel it being real, and I go, no, this is actually how it is, right? This one will come back and go, what are you doing? What are you doing? Why are you giving that the birthright? No. It's this way. It's this way. I'm sorry. I've already decided this is how it is. I'm sorry. I've already decided this is how it is. And that gives you the ability to recreate circumstance through either revision or through vision of what you want to have happen. And what that does is it always gives you a binary choice point, because if you have things in your life that you don't like, you can always go internally and see them as if they were the way that you want to, while adding 5 sensory experiences to the reality as if it were the way you wanted it to. What it only takes, though, is denial of the ESAP. No, I'm sorry. I've already decided this is the reality. I have picked this reality. This is the truth. Because once you understand that mechanism, right, that your consciousness creates reality through what it is aware of and gives attention and validity and accepts as the real reality, right? Think about somebody who's won their entire life. They have a loss. They're like, no, that's not me. I'm a winner, right? Somebody who's lost their entire life. They have a win. They're like, well, that was lucky. That's never going to happen again. I always lose. So you decide based on your identity and your awareness of either an external or an internal reality that you accept as true. You give the permission for that reality to prosper. So when you want to change your reality, you don't really worry too much about what's external, because that's an old readout of what you've been dwelling and accepting internally, whether conscious or unconscious, right? So when you pick a new state, what happens is ESAL comes, wait, no, but you've been validating me for years. You planned on giving me the birthright. Why would you do this? I'm sorry, I've already given this the reality, because you understand from subtle to gross, it's much easier to change something when it's in the water state because it's malleable than changing something at the gross state. Because if I'm trying to crack open an ice thing, right, it's going to take forever. But if I change it in my mind, I can see it immediately. And as long as I persist in that, because of dimensional spacing, what my I amness marries in a fourth dimensional reality is externalized. So what my I amness, my identity, is married to in either a thought pattern or an emotional pattern gets reflected outward. Whatever state my I amness is inhabited in gets pushed out. So it doesn't really matter too much what's externally. It's more about that choice point of your I amness and what it's married to in that fourth dimension, which is the process of focus. Meaning that if I focus on something, I'm selectively ignoring everything else. Meaning that I'm going, no, this is the reality. No, this is the reality. No, this is the reality, right? And anything that pops up, no, thank you, that's all right, this is the reality. And I'm reorienting over and over and over again until it's dominant in my mind. Meaning that is the easiest thought to think, meaning that is the go-to thought when I think of a subject. That is what I immediately default to. And as you change those default awareness processes, your entire world restructures itself externally, and it also puts you in the driver's seat, because now you have total control over how to program yourself and focus yourself into the life that you want. So I know that you guys enjoyed the video. Feel free to leave comments in the comment section if you want future videos made on certain subjects. Additionally, the coaching is available in the link tree as well. So what the coaching is, you have Modern Metaphysics, which is the base protocol. If you want to master all the basics, 6 hours of coaching with me. You have Spartan 1 Human Optimization Program, which is an entire life optimization from the way you think to a huge part of it is getting your body to perform at a very high level, right? So if you have injuries, brain fog, like we do everything to ensure that your entire physical body is working super optimally. Just because your life is way better when you don't have a body that's all messed up, just my personal opinion. But that's a bigger package. That's 12 hours of coaching. It's a 12-week process, super in-depth, super legit. Shoot me an email if you're interested in that. And then you have all the other coaching stuff as well. But more important than any of that, the most important thing I have to say today is go conquer. I'll see you in the next one.